Not too long ago, I spoke with Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. We talked about this at some length. Please take a listen to what he had to say. All right, with great pleasure. Joining us now is the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson of the great state of Louisiana. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Hey, Larry, great to be with you as always.
All right, so it's a tough time, but there's all kinds of questions swirling around, particularly the Democratic proposals, and they're denying certain things, but I don't know how they can. Maybe you can help us and put it to rest. I'm sure you've been asked these questions before, but for one thing, I see so many spots that their proposals would restore Medicaid assistance and other health care assistance to illegal immigrants. And in fact, just this morning, I saw a post by an expert, quote unquote, but somebody who's in the healthcare game, that said basically the Bidens had almost 3 million people or maybe more that were, led into the government. They were so-called paroled into the government, waiting for judicial hearings that'll probably never happen. And they're eligible for Medicaid. Now, is that part of the Democratic proposal that's holding up this whole continuing resolution?
It is 100%. Thanks for having me, Larry. It is a dark day in America because real Americans are suffering because of the political antics and shenanigans of Chuck Schumer and 43 of his Democrat colleagues in the Senate. They voted for 3 times now to shut the government down and inflict this pain. And their whole gambit is exactly what you just said. One of the primary demands that they have made for us to open the government is to restore taxpayer-funded benefits in health care to illegal aliens. Now, they're claiming that's a Republican talking point, but as John Adams said, facts are stubborn things. We stood and did a House Republican leadership press conference this morning in front of every media outlet in the United States, and I walked them through specifically title and verse and page number of the Republicans, the Senate Democrats' own measure that they filed into the record, their counter proposal, continuing resolution, that says all these things. Now, I'm going to tell all your listeners, you can pull this up and go through it yourself. Go to speaker.gov, go to the press release page, you'll see all this. You can access their own legislation, not Republican talking points. I will direct everybody to page 57 of that document that Chuck Schumer filed, and go to section 2141. It says it right there in the black letter. They want to repeal the important changes we made to the law in the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut, Larry. That's where we cut out all the taxpayer funding to illegals, and Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are staking this entire game on their demand for us to unwind that, reverse it, and make sure that taxpayer funds go to aliens again. We're not doing it.
One other point, Mr. Speaker, I want to raise. This whole business about the Obamacare premium tax credits that were put in for the COVID emergency, which is long gone. They're put in for the COVID emergency. They expire at the end of this year. Now, as I understand it, and others have said this to me, the Democrats, Mr. Schumer and company, want to put that in there. They want to add on to those Obamacare tax credits. Again, they were designed for COVID. COVID is long gone. That's a big talking point for them, and that's in their proposal. Now, that costs a lot of money. Can you tell us, is that also in there? More, health care spending, Obamacare spending. There were tax credits. We know all about it for COVID. Is it in there? Is that what's one of the things blocking this discussion?
It's in there. It also begins on page 57, where I'm directing everybody to their legislation. It begins right under the section where they would repeal all the benefits to illegal aliens. It adds that in as well. Now, here's the problem, Larry. We sent over a clean, nonpartisan, 24-page simple CR, a simple continuing resolution to keep the government open for 7 more weeks till November 21. For what? To allow the appropriators in both parties to work through the process and make sure we fund the government responsibly. That's all we did. Now, they sent back this monstrosity that everybody can go access on that page at speaker.gov and look at it for yourself. Don't take our word for it. But they want to spend $1.5 trillion plus in brand new spending attached to a 7-week stopgap measure. It's crazy. Schumer needs political cover. He's afraid he's going to get a challenge from his left flank in his next Senate reelection. The guy's been in Congress for his entire life. He doesn't know what to do outside of Congress. And so he's running scared. And that's why Chuck Schumer's made a personal, selfish decision to inflict real pain on the American people so that he can get political cover. It's just that simple.
Well, I think, and I've said this several times as this thing has unfolded in recent days, the fact that you got a clean CR, that you have no cuts, you have no increases, there's just the current level of spending for whatever it is, 5 or 6, 7 weeks. Clean CR gives you the high ground. I think if you can communicate that to the public, they'll see very clearly. As I understand it also, you're willing to negotiate and talk to Democrats about some of their policy issues. I mean, they've never accepted the one big beautiful bill, but maybe they want to have further discussions. That's up to you. That's up to John Thune, the Senate leader. But you've got the clean bill, and that, I think, gives you the high ground in this debate.
It does, and the polling reflects it. I mean, the New York Times, their own poll said 65% of Americans polled said, please, Democrats, don't shut the government down just because you don't get what you want. People understand that this is far simpler than what the Democrats are trying to obscure in their messaging. We did communicate this directly to Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries in the Oval Office with the president. The president and I and Leader John Thune in the Senate were all united 100%, zero daylight between us, and we said, gentlemen, keep the government open, and then we'll have all these discussions and debates. That's our system, Larry. That's how it's supposed to work. But they've decided to shut it all down. And so, look, it's very important for us to say who's being hurt in this, okay? You're talking about veterans, health care services and benefits. You're talking about women, infants, and children who rely upon these supplemental nutrition programs that are now not being funded and being shut down. They're affecting FEMA services in the middle of a hurricane season. We've got active storms off the eastern seaboard of the United States. This is real pain to real people. And Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate seem not to care.
Mr. Speaker, on the other hand, the lone Republican, Rand Paul, who's voted for the Democratic line, I don't think he wants that. He's coming on the show later on. He's saying that, though, the CR that you've passed in the House would somehow eliminate DOGE spending cuts, foreign aid spending cuts, I guess presumably the public radio and all those kinds of spending cuts. He's saying that those would eliminate them, and I don't understand that point of view. I'm not sure what he's talking about. He said at one point that the rescission, the $9 billion rescission, would be eliminated under the CR. Is that stuff true?
No, that's not true. We're simply continuing current levels of spending, and under the current levels of spending, the rescissions, the $9.3 billion has already happened, already been signed into law. So it will continue everything exactly as it is right now. Now, what Rand is upset about is what I'm also upset about. Gosh, I would have loved to have loaded this up with Republican, conservative, limited government proposals, but we didn't do that because I needed to maintain the high ground, as you said earlier, Larry. We sent a clean CR. There's no gimmicks or tricks or anything here. It's just simply current levels. I don't like that. We want to change it, but that is the whole point. You see, if we get the continuing resolution signed and we keep the government open for 7 weeks, it allows our appropriators with our Republican majorities in the Senate and the House to negotiate new spending bills, and that's where we reduce spending and the size and scope of government. We have to allow this to get to that point, and that's what this is all about.
Well, so, sitting back, look, nobody wants to shut the government down. I understand that. Nobody wants to do it. But it's happened. And President Trump is meeting today with Budget Director Russ Vought, whom you know well. He's an old friend of mine, former Budget Director in the first term. And really, they're going to have to take this opportunity, since there's no funding for these programs for the new year, and make sizable changes. They're going to have to make sizable changes in federal workers, federal employees, and they're going to make sizable changes in a number of federal programs that don't make any sense. I mean, I think they're going to reduce the size and scope of the federal government. Again, people that nobody wanted this, here it is. They're going to have to go and make the most of it in this, make the most of this opportunity. Russ Vought is a guy who knows this stuff backwards and forwards. I mean, that's coming, is it not?
It is coming. Russ is the expert. He's our dear friend, and he's in an unenviable situation. It's not one that he relishes. Look, you and I and Russ and all conservatives, we've always wanted to limit the size and scope of government, but we'd rather do it through the legislative process and not under duress like this. So what Russ has to do, because he's the director of the Office of Management and Budget, he has to do what anybody in his position in this situation would do. That is to look at the balance sheet, to figure out how to make the dollars go to the services and the positions and the policies that are essential versus those that are not. Now, Russ is going to look at that through the same lens that Larry Kudlow and Mike Johnson would look at it, because he's going to say, you know, which one of these makes sense? Which one of these follow the policy priorities of President Trump and this administration? Because that's who he works for. Now, if you had a Democrat, a big government, woke, progressive liberal sitting in that seat, they'd look at that balance sheet very differently. But Russ Vought has been given the authority to do this, and he's been given that authority by one man. His name is Chuck Schumer. Okay? Chuck Schumer led the Democrats in the Senate to hand that pen to Russ Vought. And I think there could be some good that comes out of it if we limit the size and scope of government, but it is not a job that he relishes.
Well,
and
I think
he's being put in that position, forced in that position.
Well, okay, but you know, Mr. Speaker, think of, I've been through these things. I mean, I was through the long one back in 2019, the 35-day. Look, if there's non-essential, if certain individuals in the government are deemed non-essential because the programs they're working for are not essential, why then let's make them permanently non-essential. I mean, there's a whole issue here. To me, it's just straight up and down. And why Mr. Schumer, who's not a dumb person, okay, I've known Chuck Schumer a long time, you know him too, but why he's handed this opportunity to the president, I mean, the executive has the authority. But again, what's non-essential should remain non-essential. I mean, to me, that can be sold to the American, it's just common sense, sold to the American people.
I was about to say, that's too much common sense for government, Larry. You're exactly right. And these exercises can be productive in the long run because it forces that evaluation. And you're right. You and I both know the government's too big. It does too many things. It does almost nothing well. And it's far past time for us to reduce the size and scope. But, you know, if we had our preference, we would do that in a deliberate process so that lawmakers can have those debates and people have time to plan. Right now, it's kind of an emergency situation, see, because Chuck Schumer just shut off the valves. There's no funding coming for these programs, and real people are being hurt because it's not just, you know, unessential offices. It's health care and veteran services and suicide prevention programs for veterans and people who are in need. It's women, infants, and children who are not getting nutrition programs. This is real stuff. Real people are being harmed. And by the way, because of Chuck Schumer's antics, the troops, TSA agents, Border Patrol agents, they're all at work today, and they're not getting paid. The people that are paid to protect all of us are pawns in a game by the Senate Democrats.
All right.